I'm the celebrant who's going to facilitate tonight's celebration of life for Nigel Thompson.
And this is Nigel Thompson, still very much alive and kicking, but not the bucket.
No, I never thought that I would be holding a wake for Nigel or attending Nigel's wake with him there next to us.
Hopefully my expiry date is well distant into the future. I like to call it an awakening.
Today could be called a pain in the arse.
But Amanda can see the sense in this memorial for a fit and healthy father of 5.
Why wait until they're gone for everybody to celebrate and tell each other how great that person was? Why not do it while they're alive and actually tell them that they're loved and they're valued?
On the day of his funeral, Nigel was understandably nervous.
I'm crapping like a werribee duck. I just can't... The reason I'm having it at the Bowls Club is that that is my... I call it my special place, and that I want to be able to get them all together to say, this is me.
I love the Bowls Club. Sometimes, it goes a bit overboard. He does spend a lot of time there. When Nigel first spoke about it, I would have to say that I was speechless. It's not something that he would normally do. It's not him.
The first reaction is, are you all right? Do you have a health problem?
But when his daughters rose to speak, a healthy Nigel must have been glad he was alive to hear them.
I've always felt like Dad was my biggest cheerleader, my biggest supporter, and my biggest motivator.
I like to think I know what they think, but deep down, do you really know the truth? And you hope the two align, that they see me as, you know, a good father, a good provider.
When I was 20 and contemplating leaving university, I was terrified of letting my family down. Yet, when it came time to tell my parents my plans, Nigel never once faltered, instead telling me that my life was mine to live.
The quirky idea of a living funeral came off the back of personal heartbreak.
When we lost our dads within 6 months of each other, it really was challenging. Particularly my dad was smack bang in the middle of the first year of COVID, so we didn't have a funeral.
So that brings us back to Nigel and his big night.
Generally, it's really heartfelt because the people want to show the impact that this person's had on their life. There's always that light humour.
I have heard that Nigel has been asked to run for Parliament in the next Victorian state election, and he's only agreed to do that on the basis that he becomes Premier.
So then this guy messages me. It's a bit weird. It's just horse racing going on. I'm not here for a chat, buddy. And proceeds to tell me how he knows my sister, and I'm like, who is this absolute tool? I said, how do you know my sister? He said, oh, well, I'm sleeping with her. So...
Seeing Nigel is really fulfilling for me. As part of the story that his daughters told, I started to cry. And the reason is because you can see the impact he's had on so many people.
I want my children to grow up knowing I am who I am because of my dad. Every time I never let my kids win in a board game, I do that because that's what Dad taught me. And every time I kiss my kids goodnight, despite how annoyed they may be at me, I do it because that's what Dad taught me.
If there is one thing I can take away from knowing Nigel, it's that you should never be ashamed to be yourself. If I could live my life to even a 10th of the degree to which Nigel has lived his, I will consider myself to have been a very lucky person.
As for the star of the show, he's over the moon about not being 6 feet under.
Absolutely loved, one, the concept, and one that I actually put my foot in and said, let's do it. I'm one of the few people who walked home from their own wake. I actually love the fact I'm walking home from my own wake.
And Nigel's very much looking forward to his 60th in 3 weeks.
He's got committed, like, you know, lay down in the coffin, you know, thumbs up every time someone says something nice. I'm just saying.
I felt a bit weird about this at first, but it's actually quite lovely.
Very sweet.
So much of life is about rituals and tradition, and we saw that during COVID when funerals and weddings were off, that's what life is all about, those celebrations, those commiserations. That's what punctuates
That's
life.
the real takeout there, isn't it? I mean, because you might be looking at that, and I had the same thought of going, well, isn't that what a birthday, like a milestone birthday should be, or a
It's
wedding?
cheaper than a wedding, though.
It is cheaper than a wedding. But it's the lesson is we need to talk more and let each other know how we feel, and don't wait for those milestones. That's what pressure on the eulogies. You think there's pressure when the person's not in the room, when they're in the room.
They actually are.